The Magical Mystery series is full of strange and odd. I don't want to do another series episodes. F it. Good evening, everybody! This is Danger Boat South, maker of magical mysteries, making mysteries on magicians with massive magical messes. However, today is definitely a more lighthearted, in the form of a simple question. What is the best element in Magical Star Sign? Now I know one person has asked this question, probably. But thankfully, Mr. Dangerboat over here, who will squeeze everything out of this game for content, I have the answer for you, in the form of a ranking video. Yes, I will rank every single element in this game, from worst to best regarding gameplay. I'm only going to be talking about the things that the player is capable of doing. So I'm not going to be telling, like, enemies using specific attacks, or, like, minor other things that happen in the course of the game, like cutscenes or stuff like that. And I'm also not going to talk about, like, what's the best element in real life. Though it'd be cool to burn your worst enemy's house to the ground, I'm just talking about what's in-game and how it affects your progress in said game. And the other rule is, although there are 7 elements, there's also an 8th one, the non-aligned element. I'm not going to be counting that, mostly due to the fact that that element is too weird compared to the other 7. Plus, there's only 4 abilities you can actually use in the standard game, and a 5th one that's only acquired via multiplayer. So again, it's too broad. But with that out of the way, I'm going to be talking about certain actions in the game that will affect the gameplay. So I'll talk about elements that do stuff in the overworld, I'll talk about the battle capabilities, and I'll even talk about how he stacks up against most of the enemies in the game. How it's going to work is I'm going to put each element to the test, compare them, and whoever gets first gets 7 points. And whoever gets last gets 1 point, and you know how the rest goes. All the points will be tallied at the end of the round. Alright everybody, let's start her off! So, let's begin with the contestants. Introducing the Fiery Passion, Fire! The second contestant is the Aquatic, Water! Next up, the Grassy General, Wood! Then we have the Breezy, Wind! Of course, we have the Hardened Earth. How could I forget the Brightest Light? And last but not least is Dark.
Woo! Yeah!
Okay, so with our contestants here, let's start off with the overworld uses. This round evaluates what the best environmental ability out in the overworld is. To reference what each ability does, fire makes more bean pops appear when they spawn, water fishes out gummy worms out of their holes, wood spawns leaves on the ground acting as power-ups, wind spawns sugar stars from healing pops, earth flips over frogs for an easy capture, light retreats gummy worms back into their holes, and dark transports the frogs away. And here are the results of the first round. What a surprise, I guess you could say, right? Wind blew everyone's expectations away. Alright, let's analyze, shall we? Why would you want to warp the dang healing items away? Are you stupid? Same goes with light. I mean, you could use light just to get easy XP if you just talk to the holes. But I don't know, if you just run into them, they'll just retreat anyways. So what's the point? Fire can be useful, but the rate bean pops spawn anyways is small anyways. It would be inconsistent to just use it like that. And also you get 5 experience points and you have to travel to Master Macadamia's just to use them. And what is also useful, a staff buff is really nice, though leaves are also given at random locations, and the only location you can actually use it is on Gren. Earth can get you lots of gummy frogs, but realistically it's only 20 beer at the store. But it's useful which one's going to be explosive or not. Similarly, water gets you free gummy worms and overall more useful and more expensive, as long as you stand right in front of it. And wind is definitely the most useful item. Not only gives you loads of them, but it gets you free warp points. And that was round 1 of Overworld. But let's go up to round 2. When scary scenarios hit the scene, it can be terrifying. You can use the elements to save yourself in a pinch. So it's all self-explanatory. Fire burns, water floods, wood grows, wind blows, earth shakes, light brightens, and dark dimmens. So let's see the results. What a surprise! Again, Dark and Light are in last place. 6th and 7th is just a pick your own poison. Would you rather be blinded by the light or just turning off the light? I just choose light because it actually would hurt my eyes. Water and Wood also have a similar issue. Yes, it's no secret that the best boy Chai single-handedly brought Ren back to life, but that's just it. It only affects the surrounding area. If there's no water or nature around, what are they going to do? And the last 3 is mostly about how much devastation it would cause. Windstorms are powerful, but not as deadly as fire burns everything. But Earth can literally permanently damage the whole damn planetoid. There's no shock there. And finally, the last round of Overworld is the special equipment that you can purchase or obtain. This round is simple, but also complicated. There is many types of specific equipment that they can get, but it mostly depends on what the overall best one when you combine them all. Some of them are unattainable for some reason, or they just don't have a proper source of where you find them, but here are all of them at its full glory. And now, let's see the ranking. Wowee, close ranking. Well, except for 2. Dang, Dark isn't doing too well. Guess should brighten up its day.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Anyways, Light and Dark equipment blow for many reasons. 1, the only time you can get them is in the post-game. 2, they don't even give that much in terms of buffs. 3, there's only 5 of them compared to the basic 10 for most. And 4, they're f***ing expensive! Like, the only reason Dark is higher than Light is because the equipment is much cheaper and gives us slightly better bonuses. But that doesn't even compare to the others. Fire has some great equipment, like the Blaze Coat, Spirit Band, and the Oven Mitts, but lots of equipment are not even obtainable by normal means. Water has a similar issue, with 3 also being unattainable, but the bonuses are much better than Fire. Wind is special by having every single one obtainable, but some equipment like the Dodo Shoes and the Tech Model S have lower stat buffs while giving little additional effects. And while Earth has 2 more equipment than all the others, 1 is unobtainable and 1 lowers a lot of stats while just gaining 80 MP, which isn't too overall useful. But thankfully, Wood is overall best in terms of stat distribution, and trust me, they're so good. Like the Mandrake Shoes, the Holy Incense, and especially the Garden Mitts make some little weak vines turn into a tangled nightmare. And that ends the Overworld section. But let's see the scoreboard for right now. Overall, Earth is barely ahead by 2 points, while Dark and Light trail behind. Let's see how they all stack up on the battlefield. So talking about the battles in the game has many different things to make battles easier or harder. So in this round we'll talk about battling with magic offensively and defensively, then we'll see how magic does in the back row because it's very different, and finally we'll see how well they're powered up in the magic star map on the top screen. Firstly, let's talk how magic does offensively. From clockwise order, fire beats wood, wood beats wind, wind beats earth, earth beats water, water beats fire, and dark and light are good against each other. Counterclockwise is what is resistant, so fire can't beat water for instance. The only exception is Dark and Light, who do normal damage to every element, but are also weak against everything else. Now, why do I bring this up? Well, this offensive route also applies to being in the front row. So on screen, you're going to see all the offensive magic that you see in the front row. Now, to count all the offensive magic, Fire, Earth, and Dark all have 4 offensive moves, while Light, Wood, Wind, and Water all have 3. And finally, you get special status effects sometimes when you use the magic ability. And to list all of them off, Blindness lowers accuracy for physical moves, Curse prevents HP recovery, Dizziness slightly lowers all stats. Stone prevents a character from moving until the end of the battle. Thorny makes you take damage at the end of every turn. Scorch makes a character lose their turn. And Sickness prevents you from using magic. Alright, with everything listed, here are the rankings. Wow, pretty hard decision to make. Now let me explain. All these ranks were taken into account into defenses as well. Although Earth has some strong attacks, and 4 of them, it really doesn't matter when they're stoned. They can't move in the back row, and rarely enemies even move and switch positions. And Cursing won't help because 90% of enemies don't heal themselves. Light can be helpful due to most enemies not having magic, but it has chance to miss. A chance, so it's not guaranteed. Wood is good at getting some extra damage each night, but it's more of a last gambit tool, and potentially an early lead. Water similarly can prevent powerful enemies from using magic and nullifies the back roll completely, but again, some enemies don't have magic. Wind lowering stats is great, but it doesn't even come close to the complete immobilization with fire, so I hope that made sense. But next is defensiveness. Once again, value from the front row, but Dark, Fire, and Earth only have 1 status move, while Light, Water, Wood, and Wind have 2. And here are the results. Alright, let's explain again. Dark's only buffing move is Jackpot, which buffs a random stat. Do I really need to explain more? Earth and Fire give off strange effects, like Strong will make you strong if you have full HP, which is mostly unlikely. And Fire, well, can buff all your stats. Fire is definitely more useful than Vibrant Damp, personally. Water can summon a wall that defends against magic moves, but it has a limit, and it has to use all of your magic points. It also has Fresh Drop when it has a bunch of stats effects on you, but what if the waters also has a stats effect? That's Sickness, so that would be unfortunate. Light is mostly the best of all worlds, so it's not really great at doing one specific thing, but it's great at doing everything else. And it's between Wood and Wind, it's a hard decision of what's better. And having lots of defense is great, but getting healed is way better. And the next up, we have the back row, playing completely differently in the front. I'm gonna group both offensively and defensively together, because it will make a big difference overall. For some elements attack, they'll only attack a certain amount of opponents compared to attacking all of them. And for status moves, it will gain defense and HP will be significantly less than doing it to one ally. But once again, here are the results. Wow. Just wow, Dark sucks, huh? Similarly to the last 2 sections, Dark is unpredictable when having not many buffs. Water doesn't attack all the enemies, but is good for status. Earth is powerful, but not much defensively. Fire is stronger than Earth, and Wood is great for both offensive and defensively. Light is just better on both Wood's end, and Wind is even better than all of them combined. Now for the bonus round on the Star Wrap. Each element is set in a quadrant powered up for a short amount of time. Time is the main key here. Basically, how long are you powered up for? Once again, here are the results. Oh, this is a shocker. Dark actually doesn't suck here. This is simple. The longer the rotation, the more amount of time you need to get back. The only exception is Light and Dark. They are powered up by the Day and Night Special, which lasts about 6 minutes for each of them. But Dark will get more offensive benefits from it, then Light will just keep up the pressure by just doing some sort of defensive thing. Alright, with that out of the way, here's the final round. Handling enemies. Now for the final round, we'll see how each element handles each of the mobs in the game. Or put more simply, how do they stack up one-on-one against enemies in the bestiary. But before we do, let's break down what I'm classifying for this section. Every element is faced against the enemy at the same level, even if they have the advantage or disadvantage in the battle. If they have the advantage in the battle, they'll get a point. I won't be calculating defensively because it will make things complicated. It'll be divided into 2 rounds. One round for standard enemies and another round for bosses. But let's break it down even more. I'm not going to count any sort of Amigo dungeon enemies or figurine section. The only exception is the Monocorn, which I'll count as a boss, because it's the only figurine you can actually legitimately attain through normal means. Alright, for all the enemies we have 137 enemies in the game. Alright, let's see the ranking who has the most advantages. another surprising event. The last two and first two were ties, but I used Amigo enemies to break the tie. But even if I wanted to give a fair hit to Darkened Water, they need it. And finally, let's evaluate the bosses. Once again, here are the rankings for it. Alright, good job, Dark. Really pulling his things in this round. Technically, there's only 2 win bosses in the whole game, and if you didn't get the hidden figurine, that makes it 1. So that's why Wood is last. But interestingly, Kale, Gummy Giant, Shadra's second phase, and Umbra technically both have light and dark depending on which element you started with. And Shadra could be any element, so I didn't count her. So, sorry about that. But now, the moment you've been all waiting for, the final rankings. And here it is in great detail. Yeah, this is probably the hardest element to work with. And it's insane that this is one of the options that you're given. Not to say that it's all awful. Dark is pretty powerful attacks, and the amount of times to be at full power and to face base police and endgame bosses is really handy. But as for the beginning and middle game, Dark is utter garbage. Dark's only defensive buff is a random stat boost that you can get, and because the main protagonist has this thing where he's always targeted at all times in the front row, and he has no way, and the only way he can heal himself is blood money, which he's thankful to have a healing move. He's basically worthless in the back row, considering he only attacks a certain amount of targets. And not to mention, he doesn't even get special equipment until the post-game. Overall, Dark kinda sucks. Earth has a lot of great overworld stuff, but pretty mediocre gameplay shenanigans. Earth has some really great equipment and some useful overworld abilities, and it helps you a ton with pirate otters and with high damaging moves. He's also really tanky too, so you'll be able to take physical hits. However, movement speed is kind of an issue. If you aren't fast, that means you'll be a one-hit wonder, and even getting stoned isn't too helpful, like getting immobilized, not actually stoned. And for standard enemies, there aren't actually a lot of water enemies to show off Earth's true power. But overall, Earth is slow and not entirely useful, but can definitely pack a punch. Water's a strange case. Where it does a lot, it doesn't do all that good. Don't get me wrong, getting a boss sick is fun, and they only rely on powerful magic. And getting free gummy worms is also great too. Not to mention, the amount of solid matchup against normal enemies is fantastic. But none of that really matters when you don't have that great offensive magic. But fantastic defenses mean that you're probably going to stay in the back row, meaning all your magic is going to be a guessing game. And the equipment is only alright. Not terrible, but not impressive. Just take everything in Dark and make it better, like way better. Sure, like it's nothing out of the overworld, and trust me, the equipment's even worse than Dark, but with great offensive and defensive moves, making probably the best jack of all trades, master of all element. Getting constantly powered up is great, and dealing against most enemies is fantastic, and especially Dark bosses will be very, very annoyed to face against a light mage. Fire is certainly great, like really great. Although slow and pretty mediocre in the overworld, Fire destroys the competition with strong attacks, a great status effect, being great in the front and decent in the back. And with overall a great matchup part for both enemies and bosses, Fire definitely deserves top 3 spot. Congratulations. An element that is so good that it keeps us alive. Congratulations, Wood, you got second. With great offense and defense in front and back rows, great speed, fantastic equipment, average overworld health. The only thing it really needs is enemies to fight, then it'd be really useful. But there's almost nothing to face. But you all know what number 1 is, so let's get to it. No contest, Wind is the best. The only thing I can really find wrong with it is that it takes a long time for Wind to get powered up, I guess. But like, you get free healing of so many Earth enemies, perfect support, powerful equipment, great offense, pretty great defense, lists of overall useful overworld things. This is just really good, no contest, genuinely amazing. And that will do it. Although a strange mystery cover and barely even a mystery, I want you to support me on this. Comment down below if I'm a stupid idiot and I thought that wind is terrible and the unaligned element was clearly the best. And you know what? What else is your ranking? Do you think fire cute or is earth charming? I would love to hear it. So if y'all enjoyed, please hit the subscribe button and, you know, social media or something like that. Now where's my paycheck? I just want to make an entire performance video for one episode, right? Can I get my paycheck now?